News at 9, the death of a local man opens up a full investigation. Find out what police know so far.
Plus, this was a scene last Halloween in New England. Snow. And this year, Mother Nature may have some more wild weather in store. Our EIV weather expert tells us what the latest models are saying.
Live from downtown Boston, leading the way with important local coverage. This is EIV News at 9.
Good evening and welcome to EIV News. I'm Chiara Capisti.
And I'm Mike Ciccone. Our top story tonight, a death investigation out of Boston. And Boston police are investigating the sudden death of a local real estate agent. 27-year-old Stephen DiRoberto of Worcester was found unconscious by an officer early Saturday morning in the financial district. Boston police say it seems DiRoberto suffered from a head injury. He just started working at a real estate agency in Boston a couple weeks ago. DiRoberto was pronounced dead at Mass General Hospital. A cause of death has yet to be determined. Police are still actively investigating. Police say an early morning accident is to blame for a massive power outage in Mattapan Tuesday morning. A truck traveling down Woodgate Street at around 3 in the morning got caught in the wires. Now police say the truck ended up pulling the wires down along with 3 poles. NSTAR had to shut off power in the area. Residents were not evacuated and no one was hurt. Police say it could take a couple of days to clean up the aftermath of the crash.
And 4 teens are facing multiple charges, including sexual assault, after allegedly attacking a female student in her UMass Amherst dorm room. Now campus security is reviewing their procedures. None of the suspects go to UMass Amherst, but their alleged victim is an 18-year-old freshman at the college. According to reports, the female student says she had been drinking at a party before the incident. The prosecution reports the alleged attackers stripped and then raped the student while intoxicated. And a discovery of a large stash of marijuana has sent 3 people to jail. The stash and more than $100,000 of cash was discovered inside an apartment in Brookline. Police say they received a tip from the Sacramento, California Drug Task Force. West Coast officials say they tracked a package of drugs en route to Massachusetts. One suspect is a Boston University student and another is studying at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. The 3 suspects are facing charges of possession with intent to distribute.
The lawyers for James Weddy Bulger have asked for the trial of the notorious mob boss to be delayed. Bulger's lawyer claims they have too many documents to examine and need more time to prepare. The trial is currently set for March. A decision hasn't been made yet by the judge presiding over the case. Bulger's team is expected to file a motion citing their concerns early next week. One person was shot and killed in Dorchester on Sunday night. The shooting occurred near the Tech Boston Academy. The victim was found on a path behind the high school on Whitman Street with 2 gunshot wounds to his chest. He was taken to Boston Medical Center, where he died later that day. Police have yet to identify the suspect.
And a trial is now underway surrounding the Massachusetts drug lab scandal. Former chemist Annie Ducan, who faked drug tests results in a number of cases, has called several defendants to challenge their convictions. A Suffolk Superior Court judge has been assigned to hear requests for sentences to be put on hold and for a bail to be set for those currently serving prison time. The lab where Ducan worked has been closed, and officials say they're expecting the number of challengers to rise. And the trial of a Boston man charged in a 2010 shooting is due back in court. Levon Rance Perkins is accused of committing the first-degree murder of Cordell McAfee. Prosecutors say Perkins and another man opened fire on McAfee while he was sitting on the porch of his own home. He was hit twice and died from injuries. Perkins is scheduled to appear back in court early next week.
The MBTA is continuing to test sensors that detect biological material at subway stations. Now, the T has installed these sensors to detect and alert authorities from possible bioterror attacks. Now, in order to test these sensors, researchers released a harmless bacterium into the Davis, Porter, and Harvard stations Tuesday morning when they were closed. The tests will continue throughout all of next year.
And there's been a lot of hype around Boston concerning the newest Red Sox manager.
That's right, and EIV's Logan Levitt is at Fenway Park with more on the Sox's new manager.
Boston Red Sox have announced they have hired John Farrell to become their new manager. They had been pursuing Farrell for over a year now. Farrell was the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays for the past 2 seasons. The Red Sox agreed to trade infielder Mike Avilas to the Toronto Blue Jays in order to secure Farrell. In a statement released by the Red Sox, Farrell stated that he was extremely excited to return to the Red Sox and to Boston. Farrell was also pursued to become the new manager last year. but when Toronto's general manager asked for a top player in exchange for Farrell, the deal fell through. As the Toronto Blue Jays manager for the past 2 seasons, he posted a 154-170 record. Farrell received a 3-year deal with the Boston Red Sox. There are mixed feelings about Farrell becoming the new manager among Red Sox fans.
As a Jays fan, you know what, I gotta be honest, I'm not hugely disappointed. He was with us for 2 years. First year he broke even 500 and he had a good club. No injuries. Second season he had a bunch of injuries, that's sure, but he still didn't do very much with it. Not really sad to see him go.
Farrell was replacing Bobby Valentin, who was fired after the Red Sox finished last place at the end of the season with a 69-93 record. This was the team's worst record since 1965. At Fenway Park, I'm Logan Levitt, EIV News.
And this was a scene last Halloween, and this Halloween could have trick-or-treaters indoors once again. The threat of Hurricane Sandy impacting the East Coast is growing. Beach erosion, coastal flooding, damaging winds, and even interior flooding are all possibilities next week. I sat down with EIV News weather expert and WSI meteorologist Ben Papandrea earlier today, and he tells me there are 2 scenarios. The first would be a close pass bringing strong winds and high seas that could lead to flooding and scattered power outages. The second would bring a direct hit.
Scenarios. One of the scenarios which one of our sort of forecast models, like an atmospheric simulation, depicts would be really, I don't want to call it an epic storm, but it would be a hurricane-like scenario.
Now, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency says they are keeping an eye on the storm and getting briefings from the National Weather Service. Our own weather correspondent, Erin Farley, joining us now. And Erin, what's this storm all about?
Well, Ben couldn't be more right with this flooding, especially because on Monday we're supposed to see a full moon here in Boston. And with the full moon, that means that the tides are going to be rising, and on top of the flooding with the tides rising, it's going to be bad news for Boston. Absolutely.
What could this mean for the fishing industry here in Boston?
Well, fishermen, immediately you need to get your boats out this weekend. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing you can do. These floods are going to be so bad that it's going to be really bad for the fishermen.
All right, Erin, thank you so much. We'll have more on your forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes. And coming up next on EIV News.
The race to the presidency has the candidates crisscrossing around the country. But how are they doing among voters in New England? Find out next on EIV News.
Plus, gas prices are doing something they haven't done in a while. Dropping. We'll tell you when those prices will fall coming up. Well, the presidential debates are over, and undecided voters have less than 2 weeks to make up their mind.
And if you didn't get a chance to watch the last debate, our own Courtney Swift has a recap on how the 2 presidential nominees made their cases.
Thanks, Mike and Kiara. The polls say President Barack Obama won the final debate. Obama put Republican candidate Mitt Romney on the defensive most of the night about foreign policy issues relating to Iran, China, and Afghanistan. The president referenced his 4 years in office and pointed out Romney's lack of experience. A CNN ORC international poll showed 48% of those who watched the debate favored Obama. That number compared to only 40% who favored Romney. There are just 15 days before the November 6th election. Candidates now head to many battleground states whose electoral votes determine the presidency. And one of those states is Ohio. We're going to talk about some of these swing states. So it's a pretty hot topic right now. The president has not won an election without winning in the Buckeye State since 1960. President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden visited Ohio 10 times in the past month. Romney and his running mate Paul Ryan have gone 21 times. Ohio is the second most visited state after Florida, and the 2 campaigns have spent a combined $91 million in advertising in the state, doing anything they can to win its 18 electoral votes. The latest CNN poll in the state shows Obama at 48%, with Romney 3 points behind at 45%. And with 2 weeks left until Election Day, President Obama and Mitt Romney have been traveling the country, hitting up important swing states. But how are they performing here in New England? EIV's Joshua Sackheim reports from D.C.
The numbers say it's anyone's game, and in this presidential election, that's a game both candidates desperately want to win. The latest Gallup poll has Mitt Romney with a 7-point lead over Obama, Romney's first major national lead since the primary. Going state by state, the race is definitely tighter. The president and Romney are tied in swing states like Ohio, New Mexico, and Iowa. But in New England, Obama can breathe easy, or easier. The president has leads in Maine, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and notably Massachusetts, where Romney served as governor from 2003 to 2007. In New Hampshire, the state where Romney first announced his candidacy, polls have him tied or with a slight lead. New England offers a prize of 33 electoral votes, the most coming from Massachusetts, with 11. But the Romney campaign seems to have accepted their luck in New England, instead focusing on winning back crucial states that Obama took in 2008, like North Carolina, Virginia, and Florida. Mitt Romney wouldn't be the first Bay State politician to underperform in New England. In 1988, former Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis split the region with George Bush. But losing Massachusetts could be a political blemish for Mitt Romney. He would be the only Massachusetts politician to lose the Commonwealth in a general election. And that's going back to John Adams. Reporting from Washington, I'm Joshua Sackheim, EIV News.
In local politics, Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown and challenger Elizabeth Warren are gearing up for the final 2 weeks of the Senate race. Both candidates have begun holding rallies throughout the Bay State. Brown appeared in Melrose with Arizona Senator John McCain and held an event in New Jersey with Governor Chris Christie today. Warren has also drawn crowds in Worcester, Beverly, and Northampton with Senator Al Franken of Minnesota. Brown continues to push his bipartisanship, while Warren has enforced the point that a vote for her is important for a Democratic Senate majority. Polls have shown this race to be extremely close. And that's the latest in politics. Be sure to tune in next week for more coverage on this year's race to the White House.
And we are finally seeing gas prices go down. The price in Massachusetts per gallon dropped 7 cents last week. Good news there. AAA of Southern New England says the average price for a gallon of self-serve regular gas is $3.76. However, that is still 9 cents above the national average. Experts predict gas prices will fall 50 cents a gallon by the end of next month, which would be good news for the economy. And more than 1,000 people showed up this week to bid on items from Curt Schilling's field video game company, 38 Studios. The bidding took place in Providence on Monday and Tuesday. The Rhode Island Economic Development Corp says that about 95% of the items sold. 38 Studios was lured to Rhode Island from Massachusetts last year after receiving a loan guarantee of $75 million from the state. The company then filed for bankruptcy earlier this week. We will know how much money the auction raised either tomorrow or Friday once everybody picks up their items.
Boston Harborside is home to great views, and now after a boom in restaurant real estate, great chefs too. Several restaurants and entertainment options have been rising in the Seaport District. Big names in the food industry like chefs Ming Tsai, Seth Greenberg, and Tom Kershaw have all opened locations by the harbor. According to reports, several more celebrity chefs are in talks to open restaurants next fall. With the Seaport District area booming, Boston residents can look forward to a good meal and a better economy.
And it was a down day on Wall Street. The Dow fell 25 points to close at 13,077. The Nasdaq lost 9 points, ending the day at 2,981. The S&P 500 dropped 4 points to close at 1408. And despite all the red, Facebook celebrating on Wall Street today, the stock jumped almost 20% after a spike in mobile ad revenue that put investor concerns at rest. So it's good to see Facebook making a rebound, I guess.
It definitely is. I mean, those ads on the side of the page, they really get to the consumer.
That's right. And coming up next on EIV News at 9, it is a popular beverage, and it's now being warned for some health issues. 5 deaths being blamed. We'll tell you about that coming up.
And the Red Sox new manager spoke at a press conference yesterday. Find out what he says the team needs in order to be successful.
You're watching EIV News at 9. With your important local forecast, this is EIV News Weather Watch.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what will be happening in your city. Tomorrow, a high of 61, no chance of rain, and the sun will be shining all day long. It's going to be the perfect fall day. Now, with all this sun, it's only appropriate that our first weather headline for the week is the sunny weather. So for 5 days straight in a row, we've seen some type of sun, whether there's clouds or anything like that. And I hope you've enjoyed it because these clear skies won't be back for at least a week. Our next weather headline is the tropical storm that we talked about early in the show, but just to recap, Tropical Storm Sandy will be coming to Boston at around 22 miles per hour for winds Monday and Tuesday. Now, as the week goes on, the winds will gradually become weaker. And now in our next weather headline, we're going to talk about the warmer weather that will be this winter. So in November, it's going to be a much warmer day, much warmer month. And in December, it's going to be much warmer than usual. And in January, the whole East Coast will be warmer. It's going to be a much warmer month. And now let's take a look at your 5-day. On Thursday, as we said before, sunny, high of 61. Moving into the weekend, Friday will be our last day of nice weather, high of 67. Saturday will be the end of warm temperatures with a high of 65 and mostly cloudy skies. On Sunday, we see a major drop in the temperature, a cloudy day, high of 56. And on Monday, the storm will be here, showers all day long, high of 65. That's your latest forecast.
Americans who rely on Medicare may soon gain more access to treatments. This comes after a settlement of a lawsuit that challenged the government. They were reportedly denying coverage to patients whose conditions were not improving. Policymakers were trying to reduce Medicare expenses, but this settlement will allow patients to get continued care throughout all of their stages of treatment. And with just 13 days until Election Day, tension is heating up on key voting issues. Opponents and proponents met on the State House steps Monday to debate over the legalization of medical marijuana. Both sides to discuss question 3, which will appear on the ballot November 6th. If Massachusetts voters vote in favor of this law, that would allow medical marijuana to be legalized here in Massachusetts.
And new studies show most employers won't be pulling the plug on health care coverage. A study from the Midwest Business Group on Health conducted a survey with over 110 companies in 16 states. A majority of businesses stated they would not drop health benefits if the Affordable Care Act passed. Employers felt that Obamacare would not directly affect their choice to offer health insurance. The overhaul of the healthcare system would allow for the coverage of more Americans and reduce the cost of health care. And the Food and Drug Administration has reported 5 deaths and are saying they could possibly be connected to the overconsumption of a well-known energy drink. The FDA says a suit has been filed against the Monster energy drink, but there is currently no direct link to the deaths and the beverage. A spokesperson for the company says 8 billion drinks have been sold worldwide, and there hasn't been one death directly linked to the product. One lawsuit filed against the drink says the victim drank a combined 408 milligrams of caffeine. An investigation is being pursued in connection to the lawsuit.
All right, and now more on health. Autism awareness is making its way to the stage. The off-Broadway play Falling by Deanna Gent focuses on a family struggling to care for an adult son with autism. Now, reporter Joy Powers explores the difficulties facing autism adults and the people who love them.
Can you love someone who seems impossible to love? This is the question Falling asks its audience. The main character, Josh, is based on Jent's 18-year-old son, a nonverbal autistic man who has sometimes violent outbursts. His condition isn't uncommon. The Center for Disease Control says 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with a form of autism. For boys, the number is 1 in every 54.
You're taught if you do a certain amount of interventions, you do this, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, stop everything in your life, your child will be, quote unquote, cured of autism.
But there isn't a cure for autism. Autism is a wide-spectrum condition with lighter cases showing almost no symptoms. People with severe autism can have major difficulties communicating. Some autistic people are prone to physical fits, and as they mature, it becomes harder to help them. Finding aid for these adults can be difficult.
So it's easy to give support to little children that are cute and you think, you're going to help it. It's easier to do than to give funds and support and resources and homes and buildings and life.
Like many states, Massachusetts only mandates assistance for autistic people until they turn 21. Hall is the mother of an 18-year-old man with severe autism who will likely never live without assistance. But she says she doesn't focus on the life her son could have had. Instead, she has a new dream for him.
The play shows the end of a dream that the mother and father experience, but there is hope. There's a new dream, and we need the world to help create the new dream for our young adults.
For EIV News, I'm Joy Powers.
And a lot has been happening in the sports world this week.
It sure has. EIV sports correspondent Jacqueline Kangaroo is here now with the latest on sports. Jacqueline.
John Farrell has officially been introduced as the 46th manager of the Boston Red Sox. A press conference was held yesterday welcoming Farrell back to Fenway. The new skipper stressed the importance of trust and respect, something Bobby V has hinted at that he didn't have. He has already been reconnecting with Red Sox players, having sat down with David Ortiz earlier in the day. Farrell says he will, quote, work his butt off to earn players' trust and respect. And struggles for the Patriots are continuing. The team came away with the win on Sunday against the Jets, but it definitely wasn't pretty. The Pats led by 10 in the fourth quarter, only to find themselves trailing by 3, but then ultimately winning in overtime. QB Tom Brady speaking about the team's struggles.
We're just not doing our best, so hopefully we get to that point. That's part of why we practice and why we meet and why we go to work every day. But I wish it were that easy, and maybe there's times where it has looked that easy, but I think you appreciate it when it does work and you realize the preparation that you put into it, that it pays off. But, you know, maybe we've just spoiled some people in the meantime, because it's hard to win, man. It's really hard to win.
And the Patriots are heading overseas next to London to take on the 3-4 Rams on Sunday. Coaches of the UMass football team pulling a fast one on 2 of their players. UMass football players were stunned when police officers walked into a team meeting. The officers said that they were serving both Robert O'Connor and Daniel Maines. The players opened folders to then discover that they were being awarded full scholarships for the year. Coach Charlie Molnar, who orchestrated the whole thing, called the 2 outstanding men and very, very good students. Preseason is over and the beginning of the Celtics season begins in under a week. The team is set to take 2 days off before starting what Coach Doc Rivers calls a mini training camp. Rivers said the team will focus on basketball 101 in order to prepare for the 82 games that lie ahead. The C's begin their season against the Miami Heat and their old teammate Ray Allen on October 30th. And I'm Jacqueline Kingro. That's all for sports.
All right, and that is all the time we have for you tonight for EIV News. For more news stories, be sure to check out our website, eivnews.com. I'm Mike Ciccone.
And I'm Chiara Capisti. Thank you so much for joining us.
This has been a presentation of EIV News and Emerson Independent Video. For more, visit us online at eivnews.com.